Hey, this is Joe from Home Studio Corner. Today we're going to talk about recording from over yonder. How do you manage a recording session if you're the musician and you're standing on the other side of the room? I've got a couple of ideas that'll really help with that. By the way, if you haven't seen it yet, the day this video comes out, tomorrow is the last day to join VIP. The doors are open, but they're soon to close and not open for a while. VIP is my private community of people all around the world with home studios who love making music. And it is a phenomenal place to start your journey, to continue your journey, to build your body of work, to get the help that you need, the direction that you need, and make the connections that you need to make the best work you've ever made. So if you like this channel at all, I highly encourage you to give VIP a chance. It is the next level, the next step for you. I promise you won't regret it. Go to homestudiocorner.com/VIP to find out more. If it is closed by the time you get there, be sure to sign up to that wait list. It will open back up in the future, and I'll be sure to let you know. The first question you might have is, why would I bother recording myself over there or in another room when I could just do it right here? Well, there are a lot of benefits to recording right here. I like to do it a lot. There's a microphone right here. All my stuff is within arm's reach, and I'm typically recording vocals, guitar, and keyboard, all of which can be done easily from here. But there are times when, and there have been seasons where I've recorded from across the room or in another room due to noise concerns. The other room was quieter. The other room sounded better. Or perhaps I want to stand up, and I'd rather stand up over there because there's a cool vibe over there, or I like the lighting, or I like the way the sound sounds over there. Also, if you're a drummer, typically your drum kit is probably not right here at the mix position. It's probably over yonder. So you've got to start to figure out, how am I gonna record myself and control the software if I'm also the person playing? I've got 4 ideas to share with you, and I'm going to do them in the order of least expensive to most expensive. There's a good chance you may own all 4 of these and hadn't thought about using them to help control your DAW when you're not sitting right here in the mix position. Number 1, and this might be my favorite, Bluetooth keyboards. I got into Bluetooth keyboards a couple of years ago. Specifically, these are like Keychron mechanical keyboards. This one here at my desk is wired. It's not Bluetooth, but this one, for example, is, and it's got a nice chunky sounding keybed. Anyway, because it's Bluetooth, I can meander over there and control everything from the keyboard itself. Now, to do this, of course, you have to have some keyboard shortcuts set up. Here are a few that I recommend. If you're using Studio One, it's really easy to customize your keyboard shortcuts. If you're using another DAW, I wish you the best. I don't know how to do it there. But for me, the things that I map to my keyboards, and I've told you this before, these 3 keys right here, just below backspace, there's a, backslash, /, and left and right bracket. Those are my record, fast forward, and rewind buttons. So when I'm recording, if I need to stop recording, I press /, and then I tap rewind a few times to get back to where I was. Then I can punch myself back in. And so I might just be doing a vocal session and just sit here with the keyboard in my hand or down by my side. I'm just pressing those couple of buttons. I've done the same with one of the skinny little Apple Bluetooth keyboards. They're obviously a little bit lighter than this. Probably work a little bit better for that specific use case. Play is obviously start and stop. Command Z for undo. So if I do a take I don't like, I just undo it and start again. And then I even use a keyboard shortcut to duplicate a track. So if I record one track of background vocals and I'd like to do a double of that, I just hit Command D. It duplicates the track. I can press up and down to get to different tracks in the session. I can press R to record, enable, and unrecord, enable specific tracks. It's really handy. The downside of this is obviously you got to get used to the keyboard shortcut piece of it, but I honestly think that's just a good practice to get into anyway. Also, you have to be able to see the screen, typically. You could kind of close your eyes and just kind of guess where you are in the song, but generally it makes sense if you're over there and can see what's happening on the screen and you're just controlling it from a distance. I suppose you could take your mouse or your trackpad with you across the room. I've done that as well. I typically get away with just the keyboard and it works pretty stinking well. The next option is fairly specific, but it's this. This is the PreSonus fader port. Specifically, this is the IO24C, which is basically a fader port with an audio interface. They also make one that's just the fader port. For years, I used the old PreSonus fader port, which was like light gray and not terribly attractive, but I would run a long USB cable over to where I was going to sing my vocal, and I would use the transport buttons here, record, play, rewind, all the things that we talked about with the Bluetooth keyboard, to control the DAW while I was recording. It's nice to have a fader here so I can turn up and down the things that I'm listening to. But the downside of this version, some of them work with USB without power, and without the power plugged in, you just lose the functionality of the moving fader. That's how the old fader port was. I'm not sure about the newer ones, so you may have to run power and a long Ethernet cable. So the benefit is you have a lot more of stuff to control with the buttons, and it's kind of nice to push buttons while you record. I don't know, something about that really resonates with me. But you do have to be able to run those cables all the way across the room. Now, what I've done when I've been in that mode where I use that a lot, I'll have my 20-foot USB cable, and if you need a long power cable, have them already set up, and then you just pick it up and drag it across the room with you and bring it back. Obviously, that's a little bit clunky, especially if you use it a lot here in the mix position, or maybe you just have it permanently set up over there for when you're going to record. With the first two options, you need to be able to see the computer from across the room. If you want to go somewhere where you can't see the computer, or even to another room, which can be really fun, you'll need a little bit more advanced devices, and the first would be simply an iPad. So there are lots of iPad apps for controlling your DAW. Specifically, there's one made by Presonus for Studio One. So this is the Studio One remote app, and as soon as I load it up, if I have a Studio One session open, which I do, it sees that it's open, I just select it, and now I have control of like all the different channels. I can mess with plugins, I can change levels, and then across the top, I can fast forward and rewind using this little scroll bar at the top. So I can literally hit play, things start playing, I can hit record, I can record enable, I can do a lot of things because it looks a lot like Studio One, right? So I can just literally just control it from here, and all I have to do is be on the same network. Now, I believe there's an Android version of this. I'm not entirely sure, and I do believe there are other options that are more third-party and generic that will work with different DAWs. But being a Studio One user, that's kind of a go-to. Recently, I was doing a live event here in Nashville, and we were playing some songs and listening, and I would walk around the room with the iPad, and I could adjust levels, I could stop and pause things to make some comments, and I could even add in EQs and move them around, all while being, 50 feet across the room at the back of the room with my iPad. It's pretty handy, and what a time to be alive. And the final option might seem obvious, but it didn't occur to me for a long time until I saw a buddy doing this. If you have a secondary laptop computer in the home, you can pretty easily screen share to that computer and control the entire DAW from across the room. So if you remember several studios back around 2015, I was in a studio that was decidedly 2 rooms. I had one room for the control room and another room where I did a lot of my recording. When I was doing that setup, I would take my laptop. My studio computer was an iMac at the time. I would take a cheap little MacBook Air into the studio, and it's got a simple way to just screen share with the iMac, and I could do everything I wanted to do for the computer, but in the other room. And being that it was a solid state drive, it was a very quiet laptop, I didn't have any fan noise or things like that can be problematic in the mix position. And I could be in there for hours. I could record, I could edit things, I could create new tracks, I could open new sessions, I could do whatever I wanted to do over there with headphones on, sitting with my guitar and my microphones, and I never had to get up. It was really a wonderful workflow. Obviously, you need a second computer to pull that off, or I suppose there are some tablets that can do that. The Mac platform makes it really easy to just screen share another Mac on the network. I'm sure there are easy ways to do that with PCs and maybe even Linux, but if you haven't thought about that and you happen to have another device, it probably doesn't even have to be a very powerful device. As long as it can connect to the network and see someone else's screen, then maybe you can breathe new life into an old laptop of yours, or find a cheap one on the internet to use as your remote control DAW. Doesn't have to be powerful, it just has to connect to the powerful computer in the studio. So this video was a bit off the beaten path, but if you're like me, I love to find new ways of doing things, new efficiencies. Even just the fact of doing something in a different way gets me excited about it and more likely to do it. And since we all struggle to find enough time to make the music that we want to make, finding ways to make that a little more efficient or even a little more fun is well worth the time spent doing it. All right, so before we close out, one more time, if you're not a VIP member and you'd like to join, the day this video goes up is a Wednesday. On Thursday night, I'm closing down the doors for VIP. So if you want to join, now is your time to do so. It's incredibly affordable, and it is a wonderful community. You get into access to challenges, masterclasses, a community of people that are always helping each other out. Plus, there's live streams, and there's a couple of competitions that we do. There's a lot of stuff there. To go find out the full deal, head over to homestudiocorner.com/VIP. And if you miss out on the deadline, don't worry, we will open it again. There'll be a link there to sign up for a waiting list, and I'll let you know next time it opens up. All right, thanks so much for spending time with me today. I'll see you in the next one.